The White House is confirming that China is using its surveillance program to spy on dozens of countries. Here's National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby yesterday.
We were able to determine that China has a high-altitude balloon program for intelligence collection that's connected to the People's Liberation Army. It was operating during the previous administration, but they did not detect it. We detected it. We tracked it. And we have been carefully studying it to learn as much as we can.
Yes, and this administration also allowed an enormous spy balloon flight to travel throughout America for an entire week before getting shot down in South Carolina above the waters there. And unfortunately, we are told that the CCP was able to snap images of our nuclear installations while doing so. Joining me right now is the former director of national intelligence. He is former Texas congressman and attorney for Texas, John Ratcliffe. John, it's great to see you. Thanks very much for being here this morning. What do you think is going on right now, John? We've got 3 unidentified flying objects that were shot down over the weekend alone, and we are not hearing anything from this administration about it.
Well, that's inexcusable. I mean, to have those types of events and to have the president be invisible and allowing the American people to speculate about what, what our intelligence and military know at this point and what they don't know is just, it's bad policy. But I go back to the clip that you just played, Maria. It's just, I mean, if it wasn't such a serious subject, I would just laugh out loud. I mean, it's just to hear John Kirby say that they detected a balloon program. Maria, you and I had a conversation a week ago Saturday while that balloon was still over the country, and I was telling you just not about anything classified, but from open source reporting about what we knew the Chinese were doing with high altitude balloons back in 2016 when Joe Biden was vice president. They were using them to launch a payload of drones, and the Chinese themselves talked about this program in 2019, even before I became the DNI. So, you know, to watch the Biden administration stand up there and say things that are just demonstrably false because they're trying to cover up what was a huge national security blunder by allowing a transcontinental spy balloon to go from one end of our country to, as you talked about, not only take pictures of our military installations, to go over the home of the B-2 bomber, to go over our national laboratories, to go over the ports of South Carolina, is just inexcusable. And now they are in spin mode to try and do what they always do when there's a major screw-up, which is, let's find a way to either blame the Trump administration or say, well, it happened on their watch too, in some effort to normalize it. And it's really just a disservice to the American people. They should be focused on our national security and not trying to politicize intelligence for a political narrative that they know is simply not true and is demonstrably false, and everyone sees it.
Well, I mean, that's just extraordinary, and that's exactly what they're doing. The White House trying to turn the narrative around, try to bring Trump into it somehow, that they detected it and you didn't. I guess I want to get your take. By the way, a lot of people are falling for it. The media is, that's one of their top stories. Oh, this happened during Trump. Instead of the focus of this balloon, which was able to fit 3 buses in it, was able to travel throughout America and go above all of those very important installations that you just mentioned. Can you talk to us a little about what you believe the CCP wants to know and what kind of technology is on that balloon that may have been sent back to Beijing already? Well,
I think, first of all, they have to be the Chinese Communist Party, the People's Republic of China. I've called it a bonanza for them in terms of an intelligence collection because, this was in part a test, and it's a test that the Biden administration failed. So we're very fortunate. What we know is that this balloon took a dedicated path over our most sensitive national security sites, our most sensitive critical infrastructure. And the Chinese learned a lot simply about the underreaction of the Biden administration to this. Now, we're very fortunate that the payload bay that this thing had was not carrying chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, or explosive weapons that were deployed over the United States. But what the Chinese learned is that it could have been, that they could have been carrying those things, and those things could have been deployed. There's no indication, from the Biden administration. They've been speculating about, well, we don't know if they had the capacity to be sending messages back. We don't know if they were transmitting. We think we blocked it. Then they admit that, well, no, we can tell that they were able to get some communications back to China. I mean, all of this is, again, what China has learned, what is possible if they do something like this. And they have, beyond that, just exposed a gap that this administration, is unwilling to address. And, I just think that that's damaging when you look at what that means, not just to the American people that saw this happen, but to our adversaries like Russia and Iran and other countries that mean us harm, and this axis of evil that is out there. And you see the impact of that. I mean, the events that are happening around the world right now, Maria. I mean, Iran meeting, with China to essentially talk about this window of opportunity with the Biden administration there, how they can work together, against the interests of the American people. So you see the impact of this weakness. You see the impact of us letting our guard down under the Biden administration to our number one adversary, and how things are backing up around the rest of the world in places like the Middle East, where Iran's influence is growing, where we had that regime literally hanging by a thread when Joe Biden came into the White House.
Well, I mean, I'm wondering if something is being planned right now. I mean, these provocations are pretty aggressive. And, if we learn that these 3 objects that were shot down over the weekend are, in fact, more tools, surveillance tools from communist China, what is the CCP doing? I mean, the administration claims it is forming an interagency team to address these objects in the sky, John, that were shot down over the weekend. But I want to get your take to what Michael McCall told me over the weekend. He joined me on Sunday Morning Futures, and he said this is all a plan for the CCP to be ready to go into Taiwan. Watch this.
I think the motivation intent's clear here. They want to get imagery, get intelligence on our military capability, particularly nuclear. And they're building quite a nuclear stockpile themselves. Why do they want to do this? Well, they're preparing, if they don't win the elections in Taiwan next January, they are preparing for a military conflict. And they're trying to collect information about our military capabilities in the United States in preparation for that conflict.
John, do you agree with that? Is that what this is about, or is this something more to do with the United States?
No, Chairman McCall was a colleague. He and I were on the Homeland Security Committee together, and he's exactly right. I mean, with regard to what's happening here, I mean, you see generals and admirals out there openly talking about the fact that China is preparing to move on Taiwan. It's a question, Maria, of when, not if. And I think the reason that timetable has been moved up is because, again, what you see, and I think what President Xi sees as a window of opportunity with the Biden administration that did not previously exist with an administration that was tough on China. I mean, This administration could not be softer on China. They keep getting pushed around, across the board. And if you're President Xi, I mean, what concerns me is, why wouldn't you move? I mean, essentially, 1 million Americans died from a virus from China, and Joe Biden and his administration has refused to confront China on that. Over 100,000 Americans have been killed by fentanyl products that have come directly from China through the Chinese triads to the cartels in Mexico. Joe Biden and his administration have failed to push back at all. Now you have this spy balloon incident, that is just a national embarrassment. And again, somehow the Biden administration is trying to spin this as a good thing, like it was an intelligence collection success from our perspective. None of it makes any sense. Again, why wouldn't China move while this administration, which is frankly asleep at the switch with regard to our national security, while they're still in charge?
Well, I think that's why they're not telling us about these 3 objects over the weekend, because they know it's an embarrassment. It's a black eye for Joe Biden and his administration. Real quick before you go, John, did you see what James Clapper is trying to do now? You were the first to come on this program, and you told us the truth right before the election that the Biden laptop was not Russian disinformation, and you never told the intelligence community as such. So you basically blew up that letter on this program after they signed it. Now he's trying to walk it back, saying, oh, no, that's not what we meant. We didn't say, you know, they minced my words. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's the irony is rich that that he would blame the media that he conspired with to mislead the American people to meddle in an American election. Those 51 intelligence officials knew precisely what they were doing. They were part of a narrative to mislead the American people, you know, about that issue, to basically, you know, override what I was saying as the voice of the intelligence community and what our own Department of Justice and FBI were saying, which was Hunter Biden's laptop was not Russian disinformation. Everyone knows that to be the case now, but they intentionally, deliberately misled the American people for a political reason. It's the definition of politicizing intelligence, and it's the definition of election interference.
Well, yeah. I guess he's trying to walk it back because now he's going to go under oath when the Republicans subpoena him for testimony. We'll be watching that. John, it's good to see you. Thanks very much for being here this morning,
Thanks, Maria.
as always.